What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to a great day. We're going to have a wonderful discussion about some unwonderful things, and that's really companies that have been struggling lately and how they reacted to Gen Con and the industry at large. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible. If you appreciate the videos I make every single week for you guys, and you can give even $1 a month, there is a link down in the description below. Thank you so very much. Today's been actually a great day. I'm in a good mood right now. My kids are just going off to bed, so one more day completed. Good job parenting. I took my dog to the dog park for a date with his dog friend. A friend of mine has a female dog that they kind of chase balls together with, really is all they did. But jumped into the river, had some fun there. I got to spend time with my friend. Got to plan my wife's birthday a little bit more. That was kind of enjoyable. But that was earlier. Now we get to talk about these companies. Going to Gen Con was kind of interesting because I saw 3 different reactions to a company that has been on hard times lately, right? There's a lot of those kind of companies, and they are to various degrees, right? Some are better off than others for sure. So I'm not trying to make these all comparable. I'm just trying to talk about how they act to the industry, right? Or how they're acting right now as a company. So if you didn't know, and I'm going to put it on the screen right about now, Blacklist Games actually paid for a booth at Gen Con and then didn't show up. Now, if you didn't know, you pay for a booth well before Gen Con. It's already prepaid for. You'd have to, I don't even know when the cancellation line is, but I know you have to cancel ahead of time, well ahead of time to even get refunded for it and stuff like that. So I imagine it was already past that, so they had paid for the booth. And so that booth was set there for them. It was a nice double-sized booth, right? So you could cut that in half, and that's the size of a single kind of booth. Like if you had just a little bit of art to show or something like that, right? But then you could do the 2, and then you could do, 4 and have the whole block essentially. Stuff like that, right? So they paid for a double booth, essentially, Gen Con, and then didn't even show up. That space was used to check out of Gen Con if you needed to take a phone call real quick, or take a breather, or adjust things, or mess with your backpack, or whatever. People were coming in and out of there to just kind of taken aside from that. And that kind of really hit me. It was very impactful to see something like that where, here's this company that I've covered for years that has sold millions of dollars worth of product at this point, and they couldn't even show up. Booth is already paid for, so all they would have had to do is pay, for the flights to get there and for the product and posters and stuff like that. It's not free. It still costs a little bit unless you prepaid for all of that earlier too. And even then, they may have felt inappropriate to even show up. Should you be at a 4-day long, essentially, party, a celebration of board games when you're struggling as much as they are? Well, that's kind of the question. Now, that was kind of interesting to see, but then you also have the likes of Mythic Games, who was actually there and in fact had a fairly big footprint. Again, prepaid for long ago, well before a lot of the campaigns like Anasteer and stuff like that. So they had prepaid for all this, and I don't know about flights and stuff like that, but perhaps they had prepaid for even a lot of that. But they showed up and they had a lot of the product, and they as far as if you weren't aware that they had just asked for if they were $1 million short on shipping of Darkest Dungeon, you would have never known. They were acting fairly normal. They had kind of a normal showing there. And in fact, they did quite well. I'm sure they at least paid for I'm sure it cost them at least nothing. They probably even came out ahead. I don't know the pricing of everything. I'm not going to try and read into that or assume, and I don't want to bother asking them, hey, you're nervous because it doesn't matter. But they sold out of all of their Steam Watchers, and they sold out of all of their Enchanters. The only thing they had left was the thing they had a huge amount of, which was Super Fantasy Brawl. So they had a lot of that, but otherwise they sold out. So they were selling product and doing quite well there. And it was kind of interesting to me because here's this company that, again, I've been covering for years, that has made millions in profit over those years, or not in profit, but in revenue over those years. And they show up and are doing quite well. Now, I actually spoke with Leo at Gen Con. We kind of went aside, had a meal together, and we're just able to talk off the books. And overall, and that's going to, stay off the books. It can help color how I share things, but I'm not in the mindset of, sneaking a fast one on anybody. But overall, a very positive reception. There was maybe a little bit of negativity, but it was actually very, 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 very small. Vast majority was positive. And there was a whole bunch of people just enjoying their games and buying their games. And so it was quite good to show up. So I wonder then, should Blacklist Games had been able to come to Gen Con? What would have happened if they had done that? Would they have been able to sell a lot of product? Do they even have a lot of product on hand to sell? I'm assuming not. That's where Mythic Games was kind of, benefited from, is having all those games. But it was great to see people play the games and then buy them. And so that was my first experience with that. And then the Blacklist Games happened, and then I kind of had to mellow over all this. And the final piece of the puzzle, and then I'll tell you kind of my conclusions, was games or companies like Peterson Games, right? Which don't even have a booth there, don't have a presence there, don't show up, right? And there's a lot of those kind of companies. The vast majority of companies don't show up at Gen Con. There's a ton there, trust me, but there's a ton of board games, right? Not everybody's coming to Indianapolis on those 4 days, paying for the booth and doing all that stuff, right? It's just not the case. There's plenty of companies that didn't. But there are companies that certainly would have fit there that didn't even have the booth, that just didn't have a presence at all. And I honestly think that was better than the empty booth at Blacklist. I think if you have a booth space there, I would have either asked them to take the paper down, to be honest, so it would just look like empty space, or, take it off of their website listing and all that, like just hide it or show up. Because at the end of the day, I think it was important to show up. I think it was important for Mythic Games to show up, because, and again, I'm sitting there thinking about this. Is first of all, it's just disheartening seeing an empty spot, seeing I can't imagine going to Gen Con and seeing Mythic Games in a blank area because they didn't even show up. But getting out there among consumers is a wonderful thing to do. One of the things I talked about, so I chose to go to Gen Con. I could have gone to Origin or any of these other ones, right? PAX East and all these other, expos that are all over the place, right? And when I announced I was going to Gen Con, a few people, and not even any of you necessarily, but a few people reached out and were just like, yeah, Gen Con's cool, but it's all about selling product and stuff like that, and it's all consumerism and all that. And if you really want to talk to devs or whatever, then you should go to this one or this one, and whatever your favorite flavor is. It pretty much isn't Gen Con, at least here in the States. And honestly, I think that's fantastic. That's why I went. First of all, I was able to meet a lot of you, and I missed a lot of you too. I'll do much better next year. I severely underestimated how big Gen Con was and how busy I would be. So I'll be making plans ahead of time, and I'll know exactly what I'm doing next time for sure, promise. But it was great to meet a lot of you. And so, but at the end of the day, and I said this in one of my videos, in the gaming hall. So there's this giant gaming hall, almost just as big as the expo hall, that is just people playing games. And at the end of the day, that's what we're buying products to buy and play and enjoy. We're not just making them so that they can, not have excitement over it or not have people buy them. These are products to be shared and experienced with people. So a convention that supports that shows that camaraderie, where you have the developers and you have the people that love the games and you're playing that together, it's a match made in heaven as far as I'm concerned. I loved every time that happened. I loved doing that. I loved meeting all of the developers. Everybody that came and reached out, again, thank you so much, of course. But it was just great to see essentially a celebration of the board game industry in that way. So I really enjoyed that. I really did. It was great to be able to see both sides of it, and great to have that connection piece, right? I've talked a bit about being the bridge between consumers and developers, and I don't pretend to be the only bridge or even the best bridge, but I feel a lot of times I'm that connection piece between the two, because I can talk to developers and hear them, but then I also understand consumers, as I view myself as one to this day. Maybe an eccentric, weird one in a weird position, but at the end of the day, I spent hundreds at Gen Con, guys. I bought a lot of stuff and I wanted to buy more, actually. And it was all sold out. I was sad, but, it's a great to have that connection, with me not even needed. Here's this giant place with all these people here that love board games and all these people who love making board games and having them mingle. And I think that's great. So it would have been really nice to see more representation of these struggling companies. I mean, if I feel that it would be worth the ticket and hotel price even. I really think it would be, because it means that even if you don't have a booth, just to be out there and to meet people and to interact and be able to talk to them, and it's just reassuring. It was so nice to see Mythic Games there acting normal and selling games. It was uplifting, if that makes sense at all. At the end of the day, I want all these companies to do. I want Peterson Games to do. I want Blacklist Games to make it through and do well and deliver an awesome product to consumers that are really happy to receive it. I mean, that should be what we all want, is creators making great things and delivering them, and us buying them and enjoying them. That's the ideal world I think we all want to live in. So anyway, that was kind of my thoughts on that. But it was just interesting to see the kind of the three phases. There's the no shows at all. There's the we wish we were here, but now we're not. And the hey, we're here in spite of everything. And I think at the end of the day, the here in spite of everything was the right decision. And it shows in the overall reaction to them being there. It shows in all the product they sold. I mean, at the end of the day, I think they probably came out ahead. They sold a bunch of stuff. I actually checked. I specifically checked because I had heard they had sold a lot. So I checked their booth on the last day, like right before call. And, yeah, sure enough, it was all gone except for SFB. That was the only thing left. And they had like a bajillion copies of that. So I'm sure they sold quite a bit of that too. But, they had a wall of enchanters that was gone. So that was awesome to see. It was great to just to see normal interactions between companies and that. I've been covering this kind of negative wave of companies struggling, of companies asking for more, or floundering, or making mistakes. And while I cover the news, good and bad, it's no fun when a lot of the news is bad. It means I have to cover it. It means people think I'm being negative and stuff like that. But it was kind of a refreshing sight to see that. But man, that Blacklist Games empty booth, disheartening. It almost broke my heart. And I don't mean that as like some eccentric, over the top thing. I mean that just because I care about this industry, and I care about them doing well, and I care about, when I see an empty booth like that, all I think is all the people who maybe made room on their shelves for the stuff that they bought from them that they don't have yet, that they might not get. I mean, it's terrible. It's not a great thing at all. People were excited for their stuff, and I hope they still get it, of course. And, I guess only time will tell. I'll let you guys know, of course, in continued coverage. Speaking of which, if you'd like to see that and more videos just like this, there's a link down in the description below. Guys, thank you so much for sitting here and talking to me about this industry and the wild ride it's been lately. It's been crazy in the news lately. Hopefully it settles down, but we're getting towards the end of the year, which means there's a lot of big campaigns coming up. I'm excited for it. Let's celebrate together. And with that, I'll let you guys go. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.